All right, what up, people? It's your boy Chig from Gooner Eagle Eye. First things first, apologize. I'm about an hour later than I said I was going to be. To be exact, an hour and 10 minutes later. What can I say? What can I say? DMT, I'm sorry, I apologize. But yeah, to be perfectly honest, I was watching the women's hockey, and well done to the GB women. I tell you, GB are killing it in these Olympics. Those GB women have guaranteed themselves at least silver into the final, beating New Zealand, a team ranked higher than them, 3-0. And they played really well, I must admit, really well. Quite frankly, I was enjoying that. I mean, and without trying to be too sexist about it, because these days you can't say things like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Who doesn't like watching girls in skirts? Let's be real. So I was distracted there. Yeah, I guess let's just get into the news of the day. So I guess first things first, in terms of headlines, let's address the elephant in the room. I promised I at least attempted to have an idea that I wouldn't moan too much about transfers. I'm probably going to get sucked into it again until Arsenal actually make a transfer. In a lot of ways, and I'm sure you guys as listeners agree, I kind of wish that the transfer window just closes at this point, just to save me moaning and bitching about it. But yeah, first headline of the day is that Riyad Mahrez has signed a new Leicester deal. Signed a new 4-year deal. I shrug my shoulders because what can you say? I know lots of people are losing their shit on Twitter, talking about how what has happened to Arsenal? What has happened to my club? They can't even attract Leicester players anymore. It's like, everybody calm down for a second. Let's just, as negative as I can be on these things, let's just calm down for a second. Were we in for Mahrez? As far as I can tell, we weren't. And secondly, did anyone really think that we needed Mahrez? Yeah, Mahrez would have been a great addition on top of what we needed. But I said it from day one. If it's a case of getting him and then not getting a striker, and not getting him and making sure we get a striker, I'd rather the latter. Because I wouldn't want Wenger to because Wenger has this habit of, let's be honest, he did it with Ozil, he did it with Sanchez, where he has this habit of neglecting a particular area that we need. And the few times he does make a signing, because it tends to be a major signing, we get distracted from the fact that actually we should have had this. So the year we bought Ozil, we were in this exact same position. We needed a striker. People forget that. Right? People forget that we really badly needed a striker. And we ended up getting Ozil, and everybody was pleased. And I remember thinking at the time, don't get me wrong, fantastic signing. But are we still getting a striker though? Because, and I think everybody kind of realized that as the season panned out, that, oh, yeah, we needed that striker on top of Ozil. Because, yeah, it's all well and good getting an assist master, but he still needs to assist somebody. The same thing with Sanchez. Again, what did we really need? A striker. What did we end up getting? An albeit brilliant, industrious, but attacking midfielder, as he's proving at the moment. You know, he can do a job up front, but he's not a striker. No matter how Wenger wants to spin it, no matter what Wenger wants to say about, you know, in terms of you know, what we've got up front and this, that, and the other. Yeah, that's all well and good, but we needed a striker, mate. So I'm not really too distracted by the things that are going on because I feel like to myself, all right, well, people are losing their shit. Like, oh my gosh, I love memes. Sorry, I love memes too, but I love DT. But I'm looking on his Twitter page, and he is losing his shit about how we can't even attract Leicester players. As far as I'm aware, we weren't interested in Well, we were interested in Mahrez, but we didn't offer him anything. And ultimately he signed on, which fair play, good for him. In my opinion, I'm okay with it. I'm all right with it. I feel like he's a good player, but if you think about the players we already have, you know, for better or worse, no matter what you think about Theo or not, he's on our books. Ox is on our books. Campbell's on our books. Sanchez is on our books. Nabry, who is killing it at the Olympics. My gosh, this team just put out Nigeria, much to my dismay. These are all winners. And I'm probably forgetting another one as well. Not to mention, we still got Jeff, who is a fantastic prospect on our books too. So it's like everyone just needs to calm down. This is why people enjoy seeing us messing up at the moment. So every time we mess up on a sign-in or we lose a game, because we are so good at losing our shit now, everybody, it's like party season as soon as something like that happens, because everybody likes to see us lose our shit because we overreact to everything. And it's important that we don't get as difficult as this is to hear from me, it's important that we don't lose sight of the things that we need. We did not need Mahrez. Let me say that again. We did not need Mahrez. What we need at the moment is a striker and a defender. My frustration is about defender, which I'll come to in a second. But with Mahrez, I think Mahrez would have cost 40 million. He would have been way too expensive in terms of what it would have taken to tempt Leicester to sell him to us. And I'm sure Leicester probably see us as a rival for the top 4 place. So whether to say they'll even sell to us is another question. Now, some people might laugh out there, but as Leicester as the champions, why would they not target a top 4 place? That, in my opinion, should be their top target. Top target is a top 4 place for them. Realistically, top 8. But top 4 should be their target. It should be their maximum target. But yeah, it is where it is. I'm fine with it. I don't think we needed him. I don't think he'll have as good a season as he did last year. He's not even in my fantasy football team like he was last year. Gosh, I just realised some of my boys are listening to this, and I actually have some money on the line with them. I shouldn't keep saying people I do and don't have in my fantasy football team. No, mate, boys. I've got Mahrez. I've got Mahrez. But yeah, I it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't bother me the way it does with other people. In terms of everything else, and in terms of the transfer window, you guys know how I feel. In a lot of ways, this time of year is the worst time of year to be an Arsenal fan. And will continue to be until the old man leaves. His way of doing transfer business is just, I don't care what he says, is not the way of doing it. I don't care what that board and what he says, it's 100% not the way of doing business. It just isn't. You know, why? Let's just take away every other reason I've mentioned in previous episodes about why it's not to do this type of thing and kind of disappoint Arsenal fans. if for no other reason, if there's no other reason that you can think of as to why this is not a good idea of doing business, just look at what it's done. It's made our team be under so much pressure from the fans now. So now the fans are now booing our players off when they lose a game. Mark my words. I don't care what anyone says. If prior to that game, right, we had bought a Lacazette, we had bought a Mustafi, even if one of them was playing and one of them wasn't, there'd be so much optimism for the season. You wouldn't have had people react like that. It'd have been disappointed to lose, but Liverpool, it's not like Liverpool chumps, they're a top team. So you wouldn't have had people react that way, but you had people shouting things like spend some effing money. You had some people talking about how Kroenke out, which I fully agree with, and I'll come back to. You had certain people also talking about, oh man, it was toxic that day. I was there as well. And I must admit, so I was with my sisters, and even my sisters noticed that it's different here today. You can sense that people are really on edge. And they're Arsenal fans, but they're not like massive, knowledgeable football people. And even they noticed there was something very different sitting amongst those people. Everybody was on edge. People were very pessimistic for the season. I think people had that kind of normal, natural optimism of, looking forward to, thank God the Premier League is back. I think everybody has that kind of optimism, particularly going into a football season. I know I do. But in terms of anything that we're going to do, I just miss being excited. I miss feeling excited about a season. And that's the one thing that signings do. Signings make fans excited going into a season. Just the prospect of what might be. I don't care who you are, from Burnley to City, to Man City. If you make a signing, you're eager to see what that signing does. And that was the irony about Sunday's game, because the one major signing we did make, he wasn't even starting, and it was just the type of thing you just laugh at, just saying Wenger is trolling people. He's trolling people right now. The one signing that I would say a lot of Arsenal fans are at least looking forward to seeing is what Xhaka can do and how much steel he can add. Because when he came on, he gave us a little bit of bite, at least. He gave us a little bit of presence, which I imagine is what he was bought for. It was the purpose that he was bought for. So that was very disappointing to see that he wasn't even starting. It kind of sums us up in a way in terms of the things that we can do, the things that we can't do. Our whole outlook on the transfer window is just horrible. And then that brings me on to our American silent owner, Mr. Kroenke. There's a bit of a movement starting on Twitter, albeit it's Twitter. Kroenke out movement. Oh man, I wholeheartedly support that. I just wholeheartedly support it because for me, I think in a time like this, you need your owner to show some sort of leadership. And he's so hands off it. We just don't know anything that's happening. We don't know why is it taking so long for us to close signings out. I said to Robbie, what was it, this time last week when we were doing our preview show? He mentioned Mustafi, right? And I said, all right, well, let's see if we close it out. Because I know my team. I know when we can close something out and when we can't close something out. And shock horror, surprise, surprise, it's 1 week later and we're still in the same. In fact, we're further away than we were last week. Stories are last week were that we were close to signing him up and he was due to have his medical. In fact, the story I heard, he was due to have his medical last week, Tuesday. And we did the show last week, Wednesday, and I was like, it's Wednesday now, and I ain't heard that he's doing any medical. I'd be surprised if we close it out. And Robbie these days is more of an Arsenal optimist than I am, and he supports Liverpool, so you make sense of that. It just shows you how beaten I am as an Arsenal fan. And even he was like, you'll close that out. You watch when you guys get this Mustafi guy, you guys will at least have some experience, and you'll go. And I say, all right, cool. We need to close these deals out though, which I don't think Wenger is capable of doing anymore. And so it's showing. You know, I mean, all right. I think people are overreacting at the Mahrez deal, but I still don't understand the Vardy deal. I mean, I've spoken to Stow, I've spoken to Robbie, people, and I know those two have their theory that, you know, Vardy was using us as a way of getting himself an improved contract. I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced by that, because the man signed himself a new contract, I think it was in May or April, albeit for 80,000. So I don't necessarily think it was that. I think it was more. I just think there are things that come into fruition when you decide on a club. My fear is something that I've only ever heard Claude say, and there's been a fear that I've shared for a while, and that is, let's face it, we have a manager that's in his very last season of his contract. And my worry is that you have players thinking to themselves, all right, so I join Arsenal for Wenger, but then Wenger fucks off, then what? I guess that was the thing about Ferguson going when he did, because I think he had one more year left at the point that he retired. So I think people were obviously shocked by that, and they kind of just expected that he would go on forever. Whereas with Wenger, because he's had so much failure, let's just call a spade a spade. I think that people had kind of anticipated that this will be his last year, and you know, it won't just be speculation amongst us fans, it'll be speculation amongst the players worldwide. So when you consider coming to Arsenal, let's face it now, your appeal, your selling point won't necessarily be Wenger. And you know, whether you're Wenger in or Wenger out, you have to admit, I don't care who you are, you have to admit Wenger is a selling point for a lot of players. You know, I watched the debate, an entertaining debate actually, between DT and the governor, who is hilariously a clown. The motherfucker was wearing a Coke box to cover his face. He just looked ridiculous. But anyway, I just got an image of that now. He was saying that how, you know, it's nonsense that Ozil signed for Arsenal for Wenger. I don't buy it. It's the one part of the argument with DT that I completely disagreed with him about. I do think there are certain players that sign up for Wenger. No matter what you feel about Wenger, these players do respect him, at least some of them. And because regardless of what you think he is, people really do respect him. People, particularly outside of the club, respect him. Some of the big and well-known players do respect him. And I do think he's a draw for Arsenal. And that's why I think ultimately we're having problems now closing out deals, because people are considering things like, well, what is the future of Arsenal without Wenger? Personally, if Arsenal were a forward-thinking club, which we know they're not, at least not with things like this, I would have asked Wenger to decide one way or another. I would have put pressure on him to decide one way or another now, so that we know what we're doing, and that at least halfway through a season, the beginning of this season, we could say we could go after someone like a Diego Simeone, who incidentally is also in the last year of his contract, and approach him. And see if you could sign him up to a contract, and maybe you could start to reassure players that you are trying to buy us. Look, long term, we have the club sorted. That even if Wenger goes, we've got a ready-made replacement. And who knows, by getting someone like a Diego Simeone, you could shift some of these players from Atletico Madrid to us. So people like your Griezmanns, this defender that we've been linked with, which I'll come back to, I think is Jimenez, is that his name? Those type of players are the type of players that will come to Arsenal if they know that their long-term future managerially is secure. And I think that does play a part. And I think that that's where it comes back to someone like a Kroenke, because with Stan, he's so silent on the matter. No one knows what the hell he's thinking. He's never come out and said, X amount of players. The only statement he came out with infuriated every Arsenal fan that isn't completely deluded by Arsene Wenger. When he said, and I quote, "I didn't buy a stake in Arsenal to win trophies." I tell you, if there's there's one thing that you can say, I don't care if you bought a stake in Watford. I don't care if you bought a stake in Burnley. The one thing you don't say to football fans is you didn't buy a stake in a football club to win stuff. Because that means only one thing. You bought a stake in a football club in order to get money back from that football club. And how this whole process is playing out is showing itself. It's showing itself to be that they are treating this thing like a business. They're thinking to themselves, I mean, fancy haggling over 5-6 million quid over, albeit a German international, but for a club decided. Let's put it this way. Let me put it this way. Forget for a second that it's a football club. Let's look at it the way they probably look at it. A business, right? Fancy a business. Right? I know a few people who work for massive conglomerates like investment banks and so forth, right? I'm just thinking, imagine those investments, because let's face it, Arsenal was worth $1 billion. They're worth just over £1 billion. They are a £1 billion company haggling over 5 million. Is that not silly? That 5 million, for all you know, could be the difference between a Premier League trophy and nada. And it's those kind of things that cost us players. In my opinion, I think at the very start of the summer, we would have got Lacazette for 45 million. Now he's gone and scored a hat-trick. We ain't getting it for less than 50 million. You must be joking. Than 50 million. And these are the kind of things that infuriate Arsenal fans. And then I saw a story today that I laughed at. I laughed at it because I just thought to myself, oh, please. And that was this story that we've been linked with a 40 million bid for that highly coveted Atletico Madrid defender who, I ain't going to lie to you, I've completely forgotten the name of. But I've read this story before about United being interested in him. I think his name is Jose Jimenez, something like that. You guys can tell me in the comment section. And I saw he was and I read the story and I laughed. And I thought to myself, oh, please, we won't spend 26 or whatever it is million on a 24-year-old experienced, because that is the word of the day, experienced German international. But you expect me to believe that they're going to spend 40 million on a 21-year-old, somewhat unproven defender. I don't care how highly rated he is, he's unproven. So these are the things that I cannot fathom what Wenger's doing. I don't know what he's doing. Like, what does he do day to day then? You're telling me he's just taking training. He's not for 1 second thinking to himself, you know what, tomorrow's Thursday. Thursday, I have exactly 2 weeks to close out what we hope is 2 deals between now and in 2 weeks' time. I'm not very hopeful. I must admit. I know my boys have said to me before, Chris, when we are not gonna we're not gonna close out. We're not gonna buy anybody else. It's just not a Wenger way. It's just not the way. It's not the way we do it. We just dither, and then comes the last day, and then Wenger thinks to himself, "Oh, I guess it might be an idea to go and try and buy someone now." It's just the most backward way of thinking in the world. Do you know, it's the equivalent. Let me see if I can try and see the equivalent of this. It's the equivalent of me sitting here all day from the very morning. I want some cereal. I don't have milk. Right? Now it's 9 a.m. I dither. I start getting hungry. It's now 12 p.m. I think so far I've got plenty of time. Still getting hungry. It's now 3 p.m. Right? Now, I don't live near, well, I do, but let's just say for the purpose of this example, I live near a 24-hour shop. This shop closes at 11. Oh, I've got plenty of time. I dither, and now it's 10 to 11. It takes me 7 minutes to get to this damn shop. I just about make it. I pick up the milk. I have what is required for this milk. Let's say it costs £1.40. I think to myself, oh, boy, I don't know if I want this £1.40 milk. I'll tell you what, I'll give you 70p for it. Tesco will throw me the fuck out. And especially because it's what, nearly 11 o'clock? And you're going to come to me with some bullshit? Get out of my shop. Oh, no, I don't want to get out. I'll tell you what. I'll give you £1. It doesn't work like that. You just pay what the damn team is asking for. Oh my gosh, and I always feel when I get dragged into these transfer window discussions, because you guys must be listening to me thinking, oh my gosh, Chick is on another rant. And I can't quite help myself. Because every time I think to myself, all right, I'm not gonna moan. I see another story. And what I should do is just stop looking at transfer stories. And then there's one of my boys in particular who might even be listening to this thinking, but I don't even know why you bother. And to be honest, I don't, at this point, I don't know why I bother. I should just stop listening to stories, because that is what gets me all emotional and worked up. And the irony is that the one story I wasn't worked up today of seeing is the Mahrez deal, because I'm fine with that. If it was the Lacazette one, I'd be more upset. If it was Lacazette that signed a new contract, I'd be more upset. But the Mahrez deal, I'm fine with, because we weren't in for him. At the time, I thought to myself, all right, well, we've got so many wingers. Who would we drop him for? So I'm fine with the fact that let him stay. Wingers is not my concern. A striker is. So we are where we are right now. So, I mean, there's this movement now on Twitter talking about Kroenke out and, Ivan the Week and this, that, and the other. And I'm at the point now where I'm just like, just close this window. I'm getting sick and tired. And the person I really feel sorry for, I'll tell you, that guy is an absolute, no pun intended, troops, if you're listening to this, but an absolute trooper. And that is Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV. That guy, I don't know how he does it. Every single day talks about transfer stories that we're possibly being linked to, and all these stories. And it's getting to the point where I'm feeling sorry for him because he, much like me, is always saying the same damn thing about the same damn stories. Except for him, he does it every single day. It's like, how can you have the same conversation at every... The worst thing to talk about when it comes to Arsenal is transfers. So I don't know how that man does it every single day. Every single day, just being disappointed with literally no action whatsoever. And you would think after Liverpool, we could see the 4 goals at home. Then I would say, oh, to heck with this. I'm just going to make sure I have a defender in by the time Leicester comes round this weekend. It's now Wednesday. We are no closer to a defender right now. It's Arsenal Football Club, baby. We ain't going to buy anyone until possibly the last day, when maybe perhaps we might get the Mustafi deal over the line. I'm still holding hope beyond hope, because I am a optimist dressed under the disguise of a pessimist. that's what I'm. I think that's probably the way to describe myself. I'm holding hope beyond hope that we will get Lacazette, we will get Mustafi, and Wenger will pull the thumb out of his arse and actually spend the money required in order to secure these players. But man, with every single day, that optimism light is just fading and fading and fading. Because of every single day, I'm seeing it's not even like we're trying for these players. The only player I saw us trying for, because the club exposed it, two, because 2 clubs exposed it, was Vardy and Lacazette. The Lacazette deal made them look silly. The Vardy one, I think he's more silly for staying with Leicester because, all right, we lost to Liverpool, but they lost to Hull. They're definitely not going to repeat their feats of last season. And you can mark my words, I say that. Because I think we'll finish above Leicester. I think we'll beat them this weekend. For my moaning. Because at the very least, we'll have some of our top guns back. So, yeah, I mean, there's at least that, but I lose faith with that old man. And I'll tell you what, the worst piece of news I'll get all year is to hear that Wenger signed a new contract. I've never turned so quickly on a manager. For years, people have been talking about Wenger out, and I've been in the camp fully of no, the man should be allowed to finish his time with Arsenal. He should be allowed to choose the time when he wants to leave. But now I'm at the point where I'm just like, get this guy out. If for no other reason, just so we can progress properly as a club. Progress fully as a club. Do the things that we need to do as a club. Because I said it before. I say it every single episode that I do, and I'll say it again. The most important signing we could have is a director of football. Ain't no striker, he ain't no defender, he ain't even a manager. It's a director of football who can communicate with the manager, then communicate with our stupid board. I think we need a full board reshuffle, but until that actually happens, at least get a director of football in. I don't see that happening under Wenger's watch. So I think if it is Simeone we get, and believe me, there is no certainty that will happen, but let's just say it is Diego Simeone we get, then immediately employ a director of football. All they need to say to the manager is, I need a list of players. You need a striker. Just give me 3 strikers. Your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice, just in case we don't get the first 2. Oh, but what about price? Don't worry about price. I got that. What about wages? Don't worry about wages. I got that. I just need your 3-player list. Oh, you need a defender? Cool. Give me your top 3 choices of defenders. Oh, but don't go over this. Don't worry about budgets. I got that. Because those are the things that shouldn't be. A manager is essentially a head coach. He doesn't need to be concerning himself with budgets and spreadsheets and things that you just think to yourself, why are you even looking at that stuff? Responsibility. I'm going to try and one of these days do a show where I'm not talking about transfers. I really have. But I fear that it's not going to happen until this damn window closes. So that's my little rant over. In terms of future plans, let me give you an idea of what's going to go down and break down. So I wanted to get Robbie Richmond on for the show just to talk about the weekend game. I was actually going to holler at him, but because I came on here later than planned, and I thought to myself, I don't want to pester him because I know it's a bit later than I actually initially planned. So sorry about that, Robbie, if you are listening. I did plan to have him on and actually have Stell on because I know Stell was tweeting us previously when me and Robbie were doing a show. We seem to have generated a lot of love and a lot of views from you guys, so thank you for that. I will endeavour to have both of those guys on and actually stay strict to some sort of time limit because we always rabbit, then we realise, oh my gosh, it's like 12 o'clock, let's get out of here. So I'll work something out with one of those guys and see if I can have them back on. Excuse me, you can probably hear I'm still dealing with a cough. Over the next coming weeks, let me just show you guys what I'm actually going to be doing. So this weekend I will be doing a Leicester preview show. I don't know any Leicester fans other than my ex-girlfriend, and you damn sure know I'm not going to ask her to be on my show. That would be crazy talk. I would be probably entertaining for you guys, but no thank you. I don't know any Leicester fans. Well, I do, but I don't think they'll be interested in coming on. So I'll probably do a solo show for that. Really just giving down a breakdown of the show, prediction on lineups, little bits and bobs like that. You know my shows when I do preview shows, they tend to only be about 10-15 minutes, so do check that out. I'll probably drop on Friday. Saturday I'll do a review of the game. Is it Saturday we're playing or Sunday? Whenever our game is, I'll do a review straight after. Let's put it that way. And then next Wednesday will be the final show before the the final Gooner Eagle Eye episode before the transfer window. But wait, there'll be more. So I'm going to do I've actually got the whole of the week off that following week, so bank holiday week. So I actually get to watch the transfer window live for the whole day. It'll be the most depressing day I have, but I'm going to try and keep faith in my team and hope that we actually sign someone. So I may, if my internet holds out, do a live kind of reaction to all the transfers that come out. So I may have various people pop in and out for that. So do stay tuned on that. So I'm going to speak to a few people. I'm going to speak to my boy Jay, see if I can get him on. One of my boys is abroad on that day, and I'm still working on convincing him to even come on anyway. So we'll see if that ever happens. And then also, I almost convinced one of my friends to come on. She's still unsure, but I dropped her a WhatsApp message today to say, you are definitely coming on. You're coming on that day. So I'll probably do like a kind of 2-3 hour episode. So I'm hoping my internet holds out. I need to get fiber badly. But yeah, so I'll do a 2-3 hour episode just to show you guys how I react to certain signings, and if we actually make one, then you'll be able to see my live reactions to that. And yeah, that'll probably play out on the 31st. But yeah, other than that, I'm still working on a few things, up and coming stuff that I'm not going to say too much about because they are in delicate stages. But I've reached out to certain people, and it's just a case of arranging times for certain people. Let's put it that way. So do keep an eye out. You're going to start to hear more familiar voices. I noticed you guys seem to like the videos where I'm interacting with others, so I will try and do more of those. But other than that, if you've enjoyed my little ranting episode, just me struggling with my cough. Apologies again for it coming out so late. I'll catch you guys on Friday. Up the Arsenal. Take care, guys. Peace.